Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really massive question by exploring John Brockman's book, Know This. It's an absolutely fascinating compilation where nearly 200 brilliant minds predict the scientific news that truly matters to our future.
You know, if you look at the daily headlines, it's easy to get bogged down. The political and economic dramas kind of just repeat themselves in this depressing cycle. But, as Stuart Brand points out, science is totally different. Science actually accrues, it builds upon itself, and alters our world in ways we can literally never undo. It is the defining story of our time.
And that brings us to the source material for our explainer today. Know This gathers the insights of nearly 200 brilliant thinkers into one single place. And we're not just talking about commentators here. These are the actual scientists, philosophers, and innovators who are out there making the news they're reporting on.
Since there are so many immense ideas in this collection, here is our roadmap for today. First, the only real news. Second, the macro, our changing planet. Third, the micro, hacking our biology. Fourth, the human, progress and tech. And finally, number 5, news that stays news.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, the only real news and the edge question of 2016.
I actually want you to think about your own answer to this exact prompt as we explore how the experts responded. If someone asked you right now, what is the most interesting recent scientific news and why is it important, what would you say? Just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Moving on to Section 2, the macro, discoveries at scale. So think about how we explore the cosmos, right? Freeman Dyson points out this absolutely mind-blowing comparison. You have your standard large telescopes, and those run upwards of $100 million. But then you have the Dragonfly telephoto array. It literally cost about $100,000 and was built using a cheap array of 10 high-end camera lenses. And get this budget setup discovered 47 new Milky Way-sized galaxies that those massive telescopes completely missed. It's a perfect example of how science is finding ways to do vastly more with less, totally changing the game.
Bringing it back down to Earth, Lawrence C. Smith points out the pretty stark reality of our melting ice sheets. The data is showing us that ice sheets are leaky, meaning surface meltwater isn't refreezing inside, it's just escaping straight into the ocean. Plus, warming oceans are acting as this massive, unappreciated feedback loop, melting these huge glaciers from below. Because of all this accelerating action, previous estimates predicting a 1 to 3.2 foot sea level rise by the end of the century, well, they might actually be way too low.
And what's really fascinating is how this macroscopic science is completely crossing over into mainstream culture. Stuart Pym highlights Pope Francis's 2015 encyclical. Now, this isn't just a religious document. Pym notes it actually serves as a remarkably up-to-date, comprehensive review of biodiversity loss and habitat fragmentation. The real news here is the staggering reach, 1.2 billion people. It's a monumental statement on how the science of ecology is directly shaping the ethical choices of our generation, totally regardless of your background.
Okay, zooming all the way in for Section 3, the micro, the code of life.
We absolutely cannot talk about modern science without bringing up genetic editing. Randolph Ness highlights CRISPR-Cas9, which, at its core, is a relatively simple lab technique that swaps out a specified DNA sequence with a chosen alternative. But here's the kicker. This isn't just about curing a genetic disease in one single patient. It gives us the unprecedented ability to alter future generations. With things called gene drives, we can actually replace a specific sequence across all members of a sexually reproducing species in just a handful of generations. We are literally learning to rewrite the code of life.
But, rewriting the code is really just one piece of the puzzle. Stuart A. Kaufman brings our attention to systems medicine. For like 40 years, biology was super focused on reductionism, just looking at the tiniest, most isolated parts. Well, now we're zooming out. We're taking a holistic view to understand how a single cell integrates with tissues, organs, and the whole living organism within its environment. We're looking at the whole shebang to figure out the complex biological puzzle of human life.
Let's pivot to Section 4, the human, progress, and tech. In stark contrast to the usual doom and gloom of the daily news cycle, Steven Pinker hits us with some objective data that totally disrupts our biases. We're wired to focus on the bad stuff, right? But look at these actual numbers. Extreme poverty globally, it fell from 85% down to just 10%. Homicides and war deaths are plummeting. Life expectancy is universally on the rise. And, my personal favorite, the world is literally getting smarter. Global IQ is increasing by 3 points every single decade. That's definitely good news for all of us. This data proves that reason, science, and tech have genuinely left humanity better off.
In that progress, it's about to accelerate in a way we've literally never seen. Chris J. Anderson points out this staggering number: 5 billion. That is the number of human minds about to come online through sub-$50 smartphones in the near future. And unlike the early days of the internet with dial-up and slow text, these billions of people are jumping straight into high-res video and super-fast connections. We are basically creating a connected global brain with absolutely no historical precedent, tapping into the creative potential of the entire planet.
Which brings us to our final section, number 5, news that stays news, the information that outlives us.
As we process all of this incredible information, everything from galaxies to genes to global poverty, it's super interesting to realize that how we consume news is evolving too. We're in the middle of this stealthy paradigm shift. Reading text is very linear. You process it one word at a time. But we are rapidly moving toward a visual language. A visual image lets you grasp the whole picture at a single glance. It can communicate these incredibly complex, intangible relationships instantly. In a world entirely driven by massive webs of scientific data, visual narratives, kind of like this very explainer, are becoming absolutely crucial for global problem solving and understanding.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought. We've seen how science is the only news that truly accrues, building on itself from the edge of the universe right down to our DNA, and how it's undeniably improving the human condition. The story of science really is the story of our future. So, what scientific news will change your world tomorrow? Keep your eyes open, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.